I started studying economics when I was 16 at A-level in 2007. About a month in, maybe even less, people were queuing up outside Northern Rock, one of the many banks that had lent out mortgages that people couldn't afford and now couldn't pay back, and there was a bank run. We had the Great Recession, but then our response to that was austerity. We had a very slow recovery, partly as a result of that austerity. Brexit, the pandemic and the fallout of the pandemic. In the background, we have things like inequality, which has been worsening. We have the housing crisis, and of course, we have climate change, and we seem to be breaking new records with every passing year. So for my entire adult life, it just feels like I've never lived in a good economy. We just seem to have lurched from crisis to crisis. It's easy to forget that when you have a big financial crisis or a big recession, you are expected to recover quite quickly. You're expected to have a kind of V-shaped recovery, but we didn't have that. The GDP fell by 6%, and it took about 5 years to get back to its pre-crisis level. 2019, the New Economics Foundation were estimating that GDP was about £100 billion lower than it could have been in the absence of austerity. To put that into concrete terms, that's about £1,500 per person. Almost every area in England, physical and social infrastructure has declined. So you're talking about things like GPs and hospitals, as you'd expect, but also just things like cash machines, swimming pools and gyms have been in decline. Partly as a result of austerity, but not just austerity. You've got death of the high street with the growth of the digital economy. You've just seen a big hollowing out of a lot of areas across England. And I think if people feel like they're getting poorer, this might be one thing they're looking at. LSE in 2022 calculated that Brexit was making the cost of living crisis worse by about £210 for every individual. In 2024, the Joseph Rowntree Foundation released a report showing that the poorest 40% have seen their income decline since the pandemic. We really have taken a number of decisions that have left us much worse off than we need to be, and have led to some people struggling, and high streets and cities and towns being hollowed out, and all of these terrible decisions that have just left us where we are now.